Hey guys, I'm Dave Cheston, the creator of Publisher Rocket as well as Kindlepreneur, and today I wanted to reveal to you something really neat that we learned. Since we created the server-based system for Publisher Rocket, we've been able to collect a large amount of data on Amazon as well as book shoppers and kind of apply that inside the program with all of our free updates. But there was something really interesting that we discovered recently that I thought was worthy of creating an entire video on just that. We discovered that there are a lot of keyword phrases that shoppers type into Amazon but don't end up in a sale. And even more so, some of these were really highly searched words. But then we started to look and we found that some of these other phrases were actually getting more sales. And so we started to look at why this was happening. And because of this, we discovered something really unique that I think authors should know about, and also how to use that information to make more sales. But before we get into that, if you haven't, go ahead and hit the subscribe button as well as the little bell icon to the right so as to get a notification when my next video comes out. And with that, let's begin. Okay, so one of the big things was we found that certain phrases that got more searches actually resulted in less sales, and other phrases that got less searches ended up in more sales. This kind of makes sense when we break it out. We found out that broad terms did poorly on sales but had higher searches normally than niche terms. All right, so let me break out what that means, discuss exactly the process, and then I'm going to give you some tips on exactly how you can benefit from this information. Okay, so first let's talk about what broad and niche are. Broad terms are usually 1 to 2, maybe 3 words or so that broadly describe something, okay? It's general, it's not very specific. Whereas a niche term is something that has a lot more words to make sure that you've really niched it down or that you've become more specific about what it is you're describing. So a broad term may be something like fantasy book, romance book, back to school, stop smoking, things like that. Whereas a niche term would be something like epic, dragon war, fantasy, romance, medieval knights and werewolves. And for back to school, it could be something more like going back to school in your 30s for a GED. As you can see, we could start with something broad and we can move to something more niche. And this process is kind of best described in an example. So let's pretend that you are on Amazon and you're searching for a romance book. Now, you type in the word or the phrase romance book. What are the chances that Amazon's going to show you the book you're actually looking for, right? I mean, you could go there and all of a sudden see a whole bunch of shirtless dudes and ladies and scantily dressed and realize that, well, that's not what I'm looking for. And so instead of deleting the phrase you had up there, you leave it there and you add on another word to help maybe filter out the things you don't want. So in this case, maybe you would type in something to the lines of, say, wholesome, okay? Now you hit search and Amazon now shows you a whole bunch of wholesome romance. In seeing that, you start to see environments or types of stories. You're like, oh, I really love like prairie stories or Western. And so you now add another phrase in there and you see that. And so as you can see, shoppers will start to drill down. They don't delete and start over unless it's just a bad search. Instead, they keep adding on to it, niching down until they find the right kind of book. The same thing can be said on nonfiction as well. You may start with back to school, knowing that you're going back to school to further your education. In seeing the books that show up, you realize, I should have talked about which education. Is it GED, college, master's degree, doctorate? And so you add that to the end of your search term. Then you realize that, well, I'm going to get my college degree, and I see covers of maybe elderly, and that's not who I am. So I need to make sure they understand it's for somebody who's trying to advance their career. And so I'll add that term as well. Now, as you can see from these two examples from fiction and nonfiction, you can see the process by which a shopper will start their search and end it with a more, shall we say, defined term that helps Amazon to show them the right product. Now, all that makes sense, but how do we as authors benefit from this? Well, I think this is really important to highlight some of the most key components to creating your keywords. In fiction, it's about describing the setting time periods, the character. It's about, the tone of your genre, the catalyst. These are all common core things where you can use in developing your keyword phrases. I have a link in the description below that will teach you how to pull from those. All right. Now for nonfiction, this is different. This is about pain points, solutions, demographics, all right? These are some of the key areas where you should focus on coming up with your keywords. And again, I'll have a link below to show you how to do that as well. So as you can see, knowing that broad terms may get more searches on Amazon, they're not leading to sales. And so you should use the exercises that I'll have in the links below to help you to build out those so that you can niche down and find the ones that actually convert into money. Now, for those authors who have Publisher Rocket, you'll be happy to note that we've taken this information and we've put it inside the program itself. So now when you do your keyword search and you click Analyze, we have a red, yellow, and green light system, okay? The red means don't do it, the yellow means it's there, and then green is, hey, this is looking good. Now, our red, yellow, and green system is not just pulling in information on, hey, this has more searches or not. As you can see from this example, this particular one has more searches, but it's gotten a red, whereas this other one has less searches, but it has a green. And that's our system using not only the numbers, but this internal data that we just talked about to help you decide which one actually will give you a better chance of making sales than not. So for the Rocket owners out there, enjoy that component. We kind of took the guesswork out of it and made it easier for you. But for those who don't, be sure to check those links below so that you can use the process to help improve your book sales and to make sure that you're not targeting terms that maybe get searched but don't end up in actually converting. All right, with that, I'm Dave Chesson of Kindlepreneur signing off. Cheers.